Hi everyone, this is Sarfraz from Aristotle Prep, and we are looking at question 116 from the OG13 Critical Reasoning chapter. It's a bold-faced question that we are looking at, so I'm assuming it will be difficult. As always, we will read the entire argument and we will then try to predict as to what role the two bold-faced sentences are playing in the argument. Only then will we go to the options. So let's read it. Scientists typically do their most creative work before the age of 40. It is commonly thought that this happens because aging by itself brings about a loss of creative capacity. Okay, so some explanation is given in the first two sentences for why scientists do the most creative work before the age of 40. However, so now a contrast is coming, which will be the second bold part. However, studies show that of scientists who produce highly creative work beyond the age of 40, a disproportionately large number entered the field at an older age than is usual. So second bold part is giving us an observation. That's it actually. A slightly contrasting observation to the first part of the sentence of the argument, but it's just an observation. Since by the age of 40, the large majority of scientists have been working in the field for at least 15 years, the study's findings strongly suggest that the real reason why scientists over 40 rarely produce highly creative work is not that they have aged, but rather that scientists over 40 have generally spent too long in their field. So you see now the rest of the argument is saying that the reason scientists perform the most creative work by the age of 40 is because you see the average longevity of a scientist's creative process is 15 years. That's what the argument is basically saying. So now most scientists by the time they reach 40 have been working in the field for more than 15 years. So then maybe boredom, lethargy, sluggishness sets in and they don't do any more great work after 40. But the reason for that is not the age itself. The reason for that is the fact that they've been working for too long, more than 15 years in the field. Which is why when scientists enter the field later, let's say at the age of 30 or 35, they continue to do creative work beyond the age of 40, as stated in the first bold part. So we've understood the argument pretty well. Now let me see if I can make some prediction about the two bold parts. So the first bold part is giving you a statement, as I said. I mean, it's not like a conclusion, it's just a statement. Studies are showing something. And the second bold part is saying that scientists over 40 have generally spent too long in their field. So this actually is, well, if I think of it, this is weakening what is stated in the first two sentences of the argument, neither of which is in the bold part, but it's definitely countering that because the first two sentences says you lose creative capacity because of age, and the second bold part says it is not because of age, it's because you spend too long in the field. I'm trying to think of some connection between the first and the second bold parts. I'm not able to come up with something great, but if I were to make a prediction, I would say the first bold part is in some way being explained or supported by the second bold part. Because the first bold part says scientists continue to do creative work beyond the age of 40, but then they entered the field much later. And the second bold part could somehow explain that by saying scientists over 40 have spent too long in the field, but since these guys entered the field much later, they still continue to do creative work. So somehow I can say the second bold part is maybe explaining the first bold part. That's the best I can do. So with that thought process, I will go to the options and try to eliminate from there. The first option says the first is a claim the accuracy of which is at issue in the argument. The accuracy of the first claim is never at issue in the argument. Nobody is doubting it, so I'll leave it at that. B says the first is an objection that has been raised against a position defended in the argument. The first is not an objection either. It's just an observation. So eliminate. C says the first is evidence that has been used to support an explanation that the argument challenges. The second is that explanation, the argument never challenges the second bold part. In fact, it agrees with the second bold part. So D says the first is evidence that has been used to support an explanation that the argument challenges. I can find no such explanation that the argument is challenging. In fact, first and second are kind of on the same lines. So E is then left, which I'm pretty sure will be the answer. What does E say? The first provides evidence to support an explanation that the argument favors. That makes more sense. And the second is that explanation, yeah. I think from the options given, that is the best of the lot because, as I said, that much we were clear that both the bold parts are in the same direction, almost saying the same thing, supporting the same thing. E is the only one that kind of puts it in that manner, and so should be the answer to the question. As I said, on bold-faced questions, a lot of the times you will end up eliminating rather than selecting, which is what we've done in this particular case, which is absolutely fine. These are tough questions, so it's absolutely fine if you can eliminate down to the answer. On a difficulty scale of 1 to 5, this one is definitely a 4.5. Have a nice day.